Hey, thanks. It's good to be back after yesterday's afternoon. It's an afternoon discussion. We've got another discussion coming up here now. Question: 62 versus 15. What could the labels be? Could be anything really, but we're about mobile market research. 62% of the panelists we interviewed in the survey have smartphones. That's not dissimilar to the number of smartphones there are in the population. And yet only 15% of survey starts are on smartphones. Why is that? Because we love our phones, right? We love phones. I love my phone. You all love your phones. I bet there's not a person here who hasn't got their phone with them. Nobody leaves it at home. You've only turned it off because we made you turn it off, right? Why don't people take surveys on phones? What's the difference between these two numbers? 1 minute 32 and 25 seconds. The difference between these two numbers is Christine doing a grid question, one time on a mobile and one time on her tablet. So let's see Christine in action.
Yeah, exactly, because you can't see the whole question, and sometimes you may not even realize that there is something further because it seems to be like a pretty question already, and then sometimes there are additional information, and I guess it can really influence your answers as well. Yeah. And sometimes I realize that, for example, the last answer is, let's say, don't know, but I don't get that far. And then I realize that that would be the best answer for me, because otherwise I need to somehow, just choose the answer which is closest, but it's not the best.
Yeah.
Yeah? Oh, and the answers here are just placed in a bit different order than usually, because usually, yes, it's disagree and strongly disagree at the very end, yeah?
You can see the amount of work that Christine has to go through to actually even begin to understand the question that's being asked, let alone what the answers are and how to actually fill in the survey as she's doing it. And notice also how diligent she is and how she recognises that the survey is slightly different to what she's already expected. So there's Christine. And here's something else that happens to all of us. What happens to all of us? 25% of us are myopic. 20% of us are hyperopic. But my friend Freddie, who turned up to do the qualitative work, is neither myopic, hey, you're right, great, or, okay, let's watch Freddie doing a little bit of a survey too, if we can run.
It says, please indicate whether you feel the following statements describe you. I usually know about new products before they are launched. Yes. I can't find the time to catch up. No. So usually you'd expect disagree and then strongly disagree, but here we've got disagree, but I suppose that's
on purpose.
Yeah.
I'm glad you noticed it.
I really look for no, that's false. I always ensure that I have time to keep up with the latest technology. Yep. I'm always looking for information about technology. Yep. So in an ideal world, I want the radio buttons to be a bit bigger, so they're fit within the screen, and that with one touch you get the right button, rather than where here it's really small and there's always a possibility that you'll hit the wrong button.
How many of you here would do the survey in landscape mode? How many people here would do it in portrait mode? I would do it in landscape mode. I assumed everyone would do it in landscape mode. Stupid me. As Freddie does it in portrait mode. He's got amazing eyesight, this guy, and tiny, tiny little precise fingers. Even he can't see the full survey. But you can see the sort of difficulties that people are going through to fill in your surveys. Okay. I could talk all day about the respondent experience, but I'm not a respondent. I'm a market researcher. I write this junk. Right? I do that to people. So I thought it'd be a really interesting experience to get some of our market research respondents, your market research respondents, to come to the conference and talk to you about it. In the spirit of qualitative research, we wanted 6 to 8 people to come, so we invited 12, expecting 3 of them to no-show for some reason, and 12 people showed up. This tells you, thank you. I think this shows a level of commitment and a level of interest on their part. We've just been chatting in the boardroom actually beforehand, how interested they are in what you do and how you can make their lives easier and the other way around. So I'm going to ask just a couple of questions and then we'll open up to the floor and you can ask anything you like within reason and decency. So what I'd like to know, if you'd like to tell the audience actually, is how you got into this and what you like about it. Angela, do you want to kick us off?
Yeah, I like the fact that...
Take the mic. There you go.
I like the fact that, I like to give my opinion on most subjects, and if there's an incentive, that sort of helps me along the way, really. And when you said that 12 people turned up today, you're being a bit ingenuous, because it turns out that there's like an £80 incentive. So, there's 12 people being invited.
There you go. Thank you.
That sort of gives you like a spring thinking, well, I'll help them out, I ain't doing nothing, so, I don't mind helping them out. So if there's an incentive for the survey anyway, you're more than likely to do it. Mm-hmm. And I've joined up for about a good 5 to 6. Mm-hmm. And I find that, if they're interested enough, I'll keep going. Even if they're a bit of a drag, I still want to do it because I want to give my opinion at the end.
Okay.
So...
Fantastic. Anyone else want to chip in?
You first.
I'm an Amazon junkie, and rather than my friends signing me up to a self-help class, they figured I could do some surveys. And I said, wow, this sounds crazy, but I tend to have a lot of free time after midnight. Mm-hmm. So, this is a great way for me to get my Amazon vouchers. Yeah. So I said, hey, why not? I'm going to keep doing it. Mm-hmm. Might as well.
Good.
I always liked doing surveys. I found them interesting. I like getting the money. A few years ago, the Wall Street Journal outed me as the person that exposed the MP's expenses scandal through the Daily Telegraph, and that put me out of work for nearly 2 years, during which time I had a lot of time on my hands and no money coming in the door. So I started doing lots of surveys all the time in my spare time, which was most of the day and most of the night. So I've got hooked on it, and I do love them. My business is now back up and running again, but I keep getting these invitations, and I want to clear my inbox, so I stay up late at night and keep filling them in.
Okay. Fantastic. I'll hang on to this. This audience, of course, is very interested in mobile research. Anyone want to talk a little bit about their experiences in filling surveys in mobile? Yeah? Go ahead.
Yeah, while mobile surveys are great, a lot of people now have the iOS operating system. But as you know, that does not compute very well with drop and drag. Many surveys I've done recently where you've got to put in sections 1 to 5, you get halfway through the survey and it says drop and drag. 20 minutes in, no drop, no drag. No way of getting back and letting you know that it just doesn't do it. Why doesn't it do it? Why don't you state at the beginning, do not use iOS, do this on your laptop? Some do say use mobile, only use tablet, only use mobiles. Some of you don't. You just go straight in and you get completely lumbered 10 minutes in for doing nothing.
Good stuff. Anyone else want to? Yeah? Okay.
Yeah. As a survey taker, I've noticed the majority of surveys that come through mobile are competitions, and I've, as a regular survey taker, I've did probably hundreds of competitions, so it's quite. I don't actually participate in much of the competition surveys. I just prioritize the important ones and leave the competitions.
Oh, great. Anyone else want to talk a little bit about doing a survey on a phone? Yeah,
I think if you're going to do a survey on a mobile phone, it has to be specifically written for a mobile phone. And as my colleagues have said, there's so many surveys you cannot do. You cannot see the screen size properly. There has to be a minimum number of questions set per screen. You just can't put a big grid on a mobile phone and see it clearly. So I'm quite happy to do surveys on a mobile phone as long as they are very specifically written for a mobile phone.
I don't mind where I do the surveys, but it's a lot easier on a PC or a laptop as my second choice. Most of your mobile surveys are totally crap. They're really terrible. You can't see the big grids. You can't push the little buttons because they're too close. There are some good ones. Very short, very snappy, where you have multiple choices. You know, you push it and a little roller comes up so you can quickly roll to the thing and then hit it and then something again. If you want to do mobile surveys, and you clearly do, make them short, make them quick, make them easy to read and easy to complete, please.
Okay. Let's open it out. Who'd like to ask my friends here some questions?
Don't be shy.
Don't be shy. No one's going to bite.
There's one over there to start off with, maybe.
Hi. Do you prefer to do surveys through a mobile app or online on your phone? So mobile web survey.
Anyone know the difference?
I've downloaded the Ipsos and a bunch of these apps. They don't really work. So I use my Safari browser and I go in that way if I can, or otherwise I just wait till I'm home and do it on a computer.
Neil? Yes.
Yeah, I mean, the problem I've got with doing surveys on mobile phones, it's this one-size-sort-of-fits-all philosophy with surveys. They need to be specifically designed, I think, as was said before, for mobile phones. The apps are quite good. I do use the Toluna app occasionally, but there are lots of surveys that you can only do on a laptop or a PC. So unless surveys start to be designed so that whatever device you're using them on, they're customized for that device, I would never use a mobile phone as an alternative to a laptop in general.
Okay, Bob.
Yes, Pete, thank you. I have to start by saying this, for me, has been the most interesting session so far, and I'm sure a lot of the audience here will agree. Let's give these guys a round of applause. Well, thank you later, Pete. I'm quite interested if you could perhaps comment on what number or what percentage of surveys do you start and at some point you say, I don't like this, I'm going to drop out. And I'd be interested in your views and thoughts on what makes you think, oh, I don't want to do this one anymore. It's not. What are the reasons?
Who's nodding? Oh, everybody. There we go. Sorry.
Basically, I stop when it's too long, when it says it's going to take 20 minutes and it's taking way longer, because if it's going to say 20 minutes, I expect it to be 20, maybe 25 or 30, but an hour I'm pushing over is too much, and the questions are always repeated. It's just like, I can't do this anymore.
Who's behind? Oh, there you go.
When I hit the point where I can't go on anymore is when I feel like you're trying to get 2 for 1 out of the survey. And you start with, double glazing, and then you end with, Veet shaving cream. It just feels like you're trying to get too much, and I'm having to do way too much for the amount of points I'm getting for it.
Was there a comment in the back? Yeah, I thought so.
I was going to ask you here, have any of you been on the receiving end and have done the surveys yourself? Because we're all experienced at doing them here, and there's some things that annoy us, and we've talked about this earlier on. One of them is very long, complicated grids. They're just boring, really, really boring to do. The other one is ascribing human qualities to inanimate objects. Such as the friend.
If it was your friend, would you like them?
Yeah, would you like them or not? I just get bored with those, and I often just close the survey down. And the other thing we hate is these catch-out questions that you put in order to try and maintain people's interest. I was doing a survey recently on handbags, and a question popped up: what colour is the sky when it's a sunny day? Red, green, yellow or blue? And I said, oh, please, credit me with some intelligence. So I just closed the survey down. So a lot of us get really, really annoyed with these catch-up questions, but it's the long, boring grids that I think are, we all get very frustrated with them. And I just wondered if any of you do surveys yourself and understand what it's like to do them.
And not just testing the survey, doing the survey. Right? Get your mum to do it, then you'd hear. There's a question over there?
Yep.
Okay.
Hands up, those of you who
do their own surveys. God, be honest. I haven't got my hand up. I've written hundreds of surveys.
in the last 6 months.
There's customer surveys. It doesn't have to be panel surveys. So we get invited as customers to take part.
Good.
Well, let's answer the question, because it's a very sensible question asked. I'll help answer it. Yes, I do take part in surveys from time to time, where they allow me to qualify, because being a market researcher, you're excluding pretty much all of them. But I agree totally with you. When you get dumb-ass questions in the beginning and you think, do they think I'm stupid? And then when you're halfway through what was described as a 10-minute questionnaire, and it's like 35 minutes, and you think, this could have been longer, because I've actually answered not all the key parts of every question. I've only answered the ones that apply to me. So I do agree with you, and it is up to us as survey designers to do a sense check, not just what you might call an operational check, to make sure everything flows through. So that's my answer for you. I agree with you. I'm sure someone might disagree with me or perhaps reinforce that.
I think it's an interesting thought. I mean, the fact that as market researchers, we get screened out of questionnaires, is that more damaging? Because what we're hearing here is actually if we were, for the sake of us being screened out because we might be slightly unrepresentative, would it not be more useful for us to be taking part in these questionnaires so that we did understand some of these issues that people are coming up with? I think that's what it strikes me, and whether that rule that's been around since Adam was a lad, I mean, does that actually make sense anymore?
Good point. Yeah, sorry.
It's not just so we want you to get experience in surveys generally. We want you to take when you do a survey for me, take it yourself first, see what it's like. One of the things that really drives me mad is what I think of as the idiot cascade. You start off, what country do you live in? All right, fair enough. Then what region? What city? What borough? And then they ask me for my postcode. For Christ's sake, once you have my postcode, you know exactly where I live. Why all those questions?
Good point. Good point.
Yep. Okay. My question would be, how many of you have experience with video interviews? It was one of the topics of today. Would be cool to elaborate a little bit on that, please. Anyone
taking a video survey?
I don't know why they invited the other guys. I'm doing all the talking. I kind of get nervous because sometimes I do them at night and I'm in like my bathrobe and I think, oh, they're looking at me, And I also find it a bit creepy that I got to put my head right in the middle of the circle and then it tells me the lighting's not good enough, turn a lamp on and stuff like that. But I actually find them generally much more interesting than the sort of click and drag stuff. So I'm nervous starting them, but I do enjoy them. I think they're much better, and I presume you get better real feedback.
Anyone else have experience? Yeah.
As he was saying, when you're trying to fit your head in the circle, and then you're kind of going to the side, and the box just won't happen. And they're kind of, you want us to show our real reactions to an advert when it's pretty hard. I feel like I'm forcing myself to go. when really, if I was on TV, I'd go, what the hell was that? God, that was so weird. But I don't want to do that because I feel, oh gosh, they need good feedback. So I try to be as neutral as possible. And I feel like maybe that kind of alters the results you might get.
Okay. No question? Someone waving like crazy in the back there. Keep waving later.
I just wanted to start off by saying thanks for coming out. I work for SSI, so it's great to see such a big response rate on our panel. Massive plug there.
She's in
anyway,
sales.
shameless plug out the way. We've been talking over the last couple of days about personally identifiable information and sharing that. And I just wanted to get your opinions on, on market research agencies actually knowing information about you, whether it's where you've shopped or what websites you've been on, and just how you feel about that, really. Is it an issue? Are you bothered?
To be honest, yeah.
I think for me personally, I have no problem as long as it's not shared with the majority of government other private companies. But, it's just kept privately with the market research. For me, I have no problem with that.
Pass it down to Angela.
Yeah, I don't like when they ask for your postcode and then they ask for your number as well, because I can guarantee you the second I finish the survey, within that day I'll get a phone call. So I don't really like that. Really, it doesn't sit well with me. If I see a postcode where there's a box and a postcode in it, I use somebody else's, because I just won't use mine. And I actually don't use my real name online. I mean, obviously I'll ask permission of the person before I actually use their postcode, goes without saying. But I actually don't use my real name online, because for security purposes, it's the only way to go forward, really.
Yeah, great. Oh, thanks. It's a bit awkward. And we were talking earlier in the boardroom about this sort of the GPS, the survey that pops up because you know where you are, and one of us was almost saying they found it a bit creepy. Was it? Yeah, tell us about that.
Yeah, I find it quite intrusive that commercial companies will know where I am at all times. If I go into, you mentioned Starbucks, or I think you mentioned a supermarket, and a survey will pop up. I feel it's very big brothery. I know some of my panellists here are quite happy with it, but I find it quite creepy. So, but you can opt in and opt out to those particular apps to do those surveys.
Thank you. You want to pop in on that?
I've always got something to say. I used to hate it. What I really hate are these telephone surveys with an Indian call center dressed up as a consumer thing, and then really it's just trying to get leads for a double glazing salesman to bug me later. I used to not like to give away my personal details. The gentleman behind is concerned about the government finding out, and I used to be just like that. But since the MPs thing, I know they're checking everything I do anyway, so I don't care. And sometimes I've just done a survey yesterday it was banking, and then it turns out one of the bank who commissioned it was NatWest, which is where I bank, and it says, would you allow us to tell them who you are? And I think most people chicken out, and I thought, hell yeah, I'll tell, let them call me, I'll tell them just what I think. So I'm actually, I've given up trying to have any personal privacy. I've learned the hard way that none of us really have it if they want to find out anyway.
We're going to get to the waving? No? Wally?
It's really refreshing to hear all these, expressive responses from you. It's, I think for everyone, it's a pleasure to actually hear real life what you actually think. My question is more around sort of like the incentives. You stated freely that you answer surveys, because there's a commercial incentive for you. Would you be as keen or as willing to give your opinions and spend as much time answering surveys if there was no incentive?
No, I wouldn't. Only if it's for the national health or some charitable purpose.
I'd be interested to see what other people who haven't I know you're very vocal, but other people who haven't actually spoken.
Yeah? Pass down. Take it.
Yeah, I mean, I think everyone puts a certain amount of value on their time, I suppose, and I, for one, certainly wouldn't want to give of my time to private companies and not get anything back for it. I think it has to be a reciprocal thing, certainly as far as I'm concerned, anyway. although same as my fellow panelists there, I would also be prepared to do it for perhaps NHS or some charitable purpose, though that's a little different.
Can we do that as a show of hands? How many people would do surveys if it was just for money or no money or vouchers?
Money for surveys for free. I would. Oh, so I don't get a vote. No?
If it's not more than 10 minutes, I don't mind,
Good
Time
point.
is money.
Good point.
If it's more than 10 minutes, I want.
Angela?
Yeah, I'm with you, Gov, and I've been doing it 2 years and I ain't got nothing yet. So because it's... But they mention you, Gov, on the news, so I know that my opinion does count, and I'm not getting anything back for it, and I'm more than happy to do surveys for nothing.
In the interest of balance, you've been paid by YouGov.
Yeah. I got paid by you.
Anybody here from YouGov?
Good luck to you.
Thank you. Thank you.
About 18 months. I got me 50 quid this morning.
Okay. No question.
Hi there. I haven't actually got a question, but I wanted to give you a little bit more of my perspective on, you said you hated doing grids, and as a designer of many grids over the years, I thought I'd give you my explanation as to why I put you through that pain. But do you know what I think it is? I think it gets to the heart of, when I wrote down the reasons why I think we use grids, it gets to the heart of where sometimes I think as an industry we're not putting participants in research first. So when I used to have to design lots of questionnaires with grids in, it's because I've got a client on my back and he's wanting to ask me lots and lots of stuff, and he's trying to get as much, or she is trying to get as much value out of their research project as possible, which links to the point that was made earlier about us trying to piggyback sometimes and do too much within one survey. So the poor researcher's sitting there and he's trying to work out, how can I get all of this brief that a client's given me, all the things that they want to know. And actually a grid is a really kind of lazy way for a researcher to cover a hell of a lot of ground and get a lot of data really quickly. So we're encouraged to kind of do that. It's also a bit lazy of us as well, because when we collect stuff in a grid, it's really easy for us to analyse and do statistics on. And I think, again, it's us thinking more about our perspective and us thinking about our client's perspective, rather than it's about thinking about you and you having to sit there and go mind-numbingly, often, pattern and answering things in the same way too. So I think the other reason is it's an illusion of how we design our questionnaires. If you look at a grid, when we design our questionnaires, we do them just in a Word document, and a grid looks really short. And therefore, it looks like we've got quite a nice, neat questionnaire. And I think the researcher sometimes thinks that's going to be easy for our participant to answer because it looks really compact and neat when we design it. But in fact, when you're actually doing it, as we saw from some of the times it takes people earlier to do a grid, it is quite onerous. So I think we're trying to do the right thing, but we're getting it wrong.
Thank you for that. Thank you. Question here, yes.
Thank you. Sorry for my poor English, so I'm going to try to express as much as I can. During a month, how many servers do you accept to participate to?
How many surveys a month?
Yeah, it does vary, but I personally do at least 30 surveys a month. And that's mainly on global test market, because a lot of the time, if you're screened out, it offers you another survey.
Mm-hmm.
Once you've completed that survey, it offers you to do another survey. So I usually find myself stuck behind that one, just constantly doing surveys every day.
Mm-hmm.
Once I run out of that, then I move on to the next one. So me personally, I do quite a lot of surveys a month.
Okay. Anyone do fewer?
Yeah, I do. For me, I do up to 80, probably 80 or more than 100,
Whoa.
Depending on, I like to do the short ones. The shorter they are, the faster I can do. And it actually depends on the website and the browser. If the navigation's quick, I can do more than 100 in a month.
Mm.
So it's the design and the website that plays a key part in speeding up on doing the surveys.
Your work must be really boring
No, I do them in the evening, during my lunch break.
Yeah. Anyone doing less? Anyone suddenly feel like they're not doing enough work? 40, about 40?
Can I ask a quick question? How often do you tell the truth, or do you always tell the truth when you're doing your surveys? Or if you've done more than so many surveys, is it that you?
If you've not working for a certain organisation and you've put down, none of the above, then the same survey comes up again and then you put, I work for management. It encourages you to lie, just again.
Could we? I'd like to hear about that from some of them in terms of telling the truth.
Anyone else want to talk about that?
Yeah, I mean, I always try to be honest when I fill them in, even though I know that I'm instantly going to get disqualified from a lot of surveys because I'm telling the truth, and it would be very, very easy to sort of trick the system, as it were, and get the incentive at the end of it. But I just disqualify myself if...
One of the questions, in fact, it came up on the video as well, is not the absolute lie, but it's the inability to tell your own truth because your answer isn't there. And that's something I think that comes up more often.
Yeah, sometimes your answer's not there.
Yeah, exactly. And what do you do?
You can't carry on until you answer this question.
Mm-hmm.
So you've therefore got to tell what you want rather than what we think.
Yeah, exactly. I've encountered that quite frequently. It'll say something like, I've even had really crazy surveys that say, do you drive a car? No. And then it'll let you carry on with the survey, and then it'll try and pin you down to what car you drive, for instance. And there's no option to say, I already told you I don't drive a car. So you have to physically pick something from the list in order to move on, and you can't exit the survey without doing so unless you just quit it.
Yeah, the car one's very good like that. What car do you drive? They'll give you 8 cars. And because your car's not there, you can't move to the next question until you actually answer it. So you have to pick out a Ford or a Kia, even though it's not your car. Or a Subaru or... Sorry.
I'm glad he mentioned that. Where you don't have none or other,
yeah,
you got to pick something. But then at the comments at the end, they say, do you want to say anything about it? I would say, that was a really stupid question. I wish you could have let me answer X. So I give them the real answer at the end. But you sort of force us to pick something. Of course, asking if someone's a liar is, you'll get the same answer from a liar or a truth teller. So that's not a good question.
So are you telling me the truth then?
This philosophical debate could rage all day. Question, yeah.
Again, thank you for your time today, and honesty is very, very refreshing. 2 questions. It seems that you're perhaps on more than one panel, so I'm just curious how many panels you're signed up to. And my second question is, have you ever gotten the same survey from one or more different panels?
Yes.
Yes, tell us about that.
You're always getting the same surveys from the same people.
Do you do them both?
Yes. Why not? It's easier to do the second time round because you know the question is going to be.
Yep.
I think I'm on about 10 or 12 panels. I often get the same questionnaire from different panels. And I always, I fill them out. I just want the money, really. And it is easier the second time round. I think a lot of survey invitations I get, they're really just fronting for some other company because they say, it's loading, and they pass me to somebody else, and then I get passed around, and then it starts. So I do quite often see the same thing more than once.
Okay. Little show of hands. How many people are only on one survey company? Just the one? Yeah. Okay. Who's on more than 5? More than 10? I think that's everyone's hands up. Yeah? Okay. More than 20? Including you, Gov? Okay. Yeah.
You've given your view about videos. What's your view when you get a question and you have to take a picture of your fridge or your breakfast?
Anyone want to?
I mean, I do that anyway. Yeah. I mean, I live for Instagram, so, if I'm doing that anyway, you want to see what's going in my stomach, why not? If it's going to help you, make the world a better place, I am more than willing to give my pictures of my fridge and everything inside. As long as you don't judge me, because there could be quite a lot of alcohol in there.
For me, actually, I find the videos more entertaining than any other survey, as long as they're not more than 30 minutes. And the picture ones, they're quite good. I'm quite fine with that.
Anyone else experience? Yeah. Sorry. We should have more microphones, huh?
Yeah, it's quite rare to find something that requires a picture in my experience, but I did one the other day, and it wanted a photograph of my bathroom, which was rather a hassle because I live in central London, and my bathroom, therefore, typically is rather small. So it was quite an exercise trying to actually photograph. They wanted the floor and the ceiling. And I think I got something like about 20p for my efforts, which I thought was a bit of an insult, but there we are. I think the incentive ought to be better in general if you want people to do these sort of unusual things, shall we say.
Pete, I think given what was said at the beginning, we probably don't want to keep our people too long. We've paid them their money. They've given us their answers. And
are we out of time?
I think, yeah. I think we're out of time.
And I had a killer question.
What I will say is you guys will never know how much you've just rocked everybody's world in this room. This has been absolutely fascinating. And round of applause for Pete and for everybody.
Thank you, guys.